Welcome to the week number 13 overview for managerial economics here at Rutgers University in Camden. And this week, only covering one chapter, chapter 17, Global Business. And these are the main portions of the chapter that we are going to be covering. Reasons for international trade. Make sure you understand the importance of comparative advantage in international trade. So make sure you understand what comparative advantage is, the definition, and the examples are given to illustrate how comparative advantage, specialization, and trade can make both parties better off, both countries better off. Also, make sure you understand that reasons for trade is because there are increasing returns to scale. So that firms, when they specialize, there's benefits from those returns to scale. And also realize that it's very important, particularly in industries where product variety is important. So make sure you understand those components. Also, the chapter goes over exchange rates. Realize what an exchange rate is and how changes in exchange rate influence the flow of services, goods and services exchange across international borders. Also realize that when we have floating exchange rates, that there's some risk from this. It's referred to as exchange rate risk. So if you engage in international trade, you have to be aware of fluctuations in the exchange rate and also be aware of how firms can reduce that risk by using forward or futures contracts. Also, the chapter goes over international trade policy. Realize that governments oftentimes intervene when it comes to the movement of goods across borders of countries. The most important intervention is a tariff or a tax on imports, and also quotas. So make sure you understand the difference between a tariff and a quota. Realize that they both can generate government revenue. The government via tariff can raise, in essence, tax revenues, and sometimes that the government, when it institutes a quota, might sell quota rights to individuals and generate revenue from the sale of those. Also, realize that sometimes the government might intervene to assist a particular industry or create market power for a domestic exporter. So realize that there might be additional reasons why a government might interfere in international trade and the flow of goods and services. The chapter also has a discussion of multinational enterprises. Realize, number one, that these multinational corporations are increasingly important in the economy of the United States and the economies throughout the world. So realize that the importance of these is growing and they have a great deal to do with international trade and with investment flows. Also, realize that the trade between units of multinational enterprises is very sensitive to variations in tax rates across the nations. So if you have one country that has a lower tax rate, these multinational corporations would most likely seek to do more and more business out of that low tax rate country. And the final section of the chapter is about outsourcing. Make sure you understand what the concept of outsourcing is, basically buying an input or services from another company instead of producing it themselves. Also, realize that outsourcing can occur within a country, but increasingly it's becoming that outsourcing is occurring from one country to another, where companies are outsourcing portions of their business to other countries and the benefits that they get from that. And also just to have an idea of why this notion is controversial at the present time.